I'm the odd one out in my family. While my oldest sister is killing it in the mall, I'm just on the couch munching on chips. My second sister's busy with crime solving on her live stream, helping out the cops. And I'm still on the couch, watching her stream with those chips. My third sister, with her crazy smarts, got into Mensa and made millions punching people. But finally, I was lifted off the couch. My brother Felix came to take me away. Felix gave me a long look and warned, "Even though we're blood, Lucy's my real sister." Lucy took my place in life, living it up as a fake rich girl for years. And I'm cool with that. If my sisters were in my spot, they'd probably say the same. I won't fight with Lucy, I know that. Felix gave me a smirk like, "Good, you know your place. Pack your stuff and come with me." I was confused. Pack what? Your things. You've been found, you coming back or what? You still want to stick to this rundown apartment? I nodded yep. But you just said Lucy's your sister, right? Why should I go back? Felix countered. You're both my sisters. Oh, no need really. I went with Felix to the Whites' big mansion. In the living room, my real parents and Lucy were sitting on the couch. Mrs. White had Lucy in her arms, and her eyes were red. As soon as she saw me, she almost cried, "Mom, I'll just leave. I'm scared my sister won't like me." And I'm like, who's the sister? Lucy, don't say that. Your real parents are gone. Where would you even go if you left? If Carrie can't accept you, I mean if she's got no room for you, then she's not worthy of being a White. Felix pulled out a silk handkerchief to wipe Lucy's tears. With just a few words, he had everyone thinking I was some sort of evil stepsister. And without saying a word, I became the villain of the story. After Felix comforted Lucy, she cried even harder. Mrs. White was busy reassuring her daughter, while Mr. White gave me the once-over. "How've you been all these years?" he asked. "I'm good," I replied. "Don't go imagining me scraping by waiting tables or delivering food. I mean it. I'm really good." But Mr. White didn't seem to hear my side. He sighed, "We've raised Lucy for so long, feels like my own. Don't feel like you can't accept her now. She's your sister from here on out." Mr. White's eyes were sharp, like a business pro. "Soon, I'll let everyone know the truth about you. Until then, focus on your studies. I'm enrolling you in Knox Private Academy. Get to know the second-generation wealthy kids." He handed me a bank card. I looked at it kinda surprised. Just a regular card, not that fancy black card I expected. Way to lower the tough guy vibes. He told me to update my wardrobe, so as not to embarrass the Whites. I hesitated, glancing at Mr. White and then Lucy, unsure if I should speak my mind. Impatiently, Mr. White asked, "What could it be?" I asked. "I'm already a Knox student. Knox fees are 20-something grand, but there's a 200 grand deposit, unless you're a special enrollee. Exceptional students get free tuition, you know." I probably looked out of place. So maybe Mr. White had every right to think so. He nodded. "That's good. Then you must have great grades. Lucy, make sure to look out for her at school." And just like that, the head of the White family made the call, and I was in. Confused beyond words. Is there any chance I don't want to be here? But everyone assumes I do. Mr. White seemed pleased with me. To the butler he said, "Get a room ready." Before the butler could respond, Lucy teared up, "Dad, give my room to her. It's her rightful space anyway." Felix, looking heartbroken, said, "Lucy, so many rooms here, why can't she stay in another? Why should you lose yours?" Mrs. White patted Lucy's shoulder. "Carrie, Lucy's been in that room for years. The one to the far right on the second is good too. How about you just stay there? Don't fight over it. She's already lost her real parents. Give her time to adjust." I was beyond words. Can't be bothered to argue. I raised my hand, rolled up my sleeve, and revealed my little genius smartwatch. Right in front of the Whites, I called my second sister. "Hey sis, I won't be back tonight." "Yep, not coming back for lunch. For dinner though, I'll be there." I looked sincerely at Mr. White. "My sis is expecting me for dinner, so I won't be staying here. No need to set up a room, okay?" Everyone's expressions shifted. Lucy tried to be generous, but I quickly shut her down. "Relax, I won't fight you over anything. Please don't cry in front of me. Crying is my least favorite thing." Lucy shut her mouth. Next second she was in Mrs. White's arms, asking if I didn't like her and calling for help. With Mr. White persuading me, I caved in and stayed on. In the room to the far right on the second floor. To my left Felix, opposite Lucy, the great brother, had just left his sister's room and knocked on mine. He leaned against the door frame, brows pretty much squished together, deep enough to catch a fly. Carrie, Lucy's been crying non-stop. Do you not get that or what? I didn't look up from my phone. Nope. How can you just accept all this with a clear mind? Do you not know how hard it is for Lucy? He barged in complaining. Lucy's been a white all this time. And bam, you're here, taking it all from her. I waved my hand, gesturing your call. I sat back on the couch, scrolling through my phone. Live streaming. My third sister was in an international conference, fiercely accusing some country of trashing the ocean. When she finished, the room burst into applause. What are you watching? Are you even listening to me? Carrie, you're acting totally indifferent. Looks fake at this point. Say you won't fight for anything, and next thing there you go. Being Dad's favorite. I nodded, agreeing. Yep. 2. Felix, all fired up, snatched my phone from me. He wanted to see what I was looking at, and ended up glued to the screen. He raised an eyebrow and asked Carrie, do you know him? I said, yeah, you know him. Felix said he was Lucy's tutor. I gave Felix a knowing look, which made him blush for the first time. Earlier, though, our third sister mentioned a spoiled girl, who can't even solve a quadratic equation, cries at every scolding, and has a big dumb brother who's always doing brain-dead stuff. Turns out it's the White siblings. Felix held our third sister in high regard. She's all right. Did you really get into Knox on your own merit? The files say you weren't that outstanding academically. Did you lie to get Dad's attention, Carrie? Lying is wrong. Do you think you can keep up the act? When I didn't reply, Felix seemed to think I felt guilty. He scolded me for not living up to his expectations and then, thinking he was being generous, offered to cover my lie. I'll get you into Knox. Just let Carrie help you out. I remembered the wall in the apartment with a fist-sized hole. It looked terrifying when you thought about how our third sister made it over the years. I quickly shook my head and backed out. No thanks, I thought. I don't have the luck for that. Felix, seeing my rejection as ungratefulness, sneered, fine. I won't care what happens to you. The next Monday, I rushed to my first period class. As I reached the door, Lucy came over and grabbed my arm. Sis, let's go to school together. I recalled how her competitiveness could terrify the socially anxious. I couldn't say no. Lucy's eyes welled up with tears. You still don't like me, huh? Fine, I'll go. Mrs. White glanced at me and then Lucy, her voice carrying a subtle reprimand. Oh, Lucy was just being nice. Maybe you don't want to go together, because you're afraid your lie will be exposed. Felix's expression was mocking. I glanced around. It was clear even without an X-ray that everyone here was brain dead. Lie? What lie, mister? White caught on instantly, tapping his fingers on the table as he said, Nolan, you'll take the ladies to school. That was just to make sure I was actually a student at Knox. Where's your uniform? Lucy blinked innocently. Oh right, I forgot my uniform. I texted my sister back home to bring it for me. Lucy gasped, covering her mouth. And your school ID too. Otherwise you can't get in. I reassured her. I'm all set, don't worry. She snuck a glance at Mr. White. I was just worried, you know. She left the thought unfinished. The White's driver took us to school himself. Felix sat in the front seat and kept an eye on me through the rearview mirror, like he was worried I'd harm his precious sister. Rolling my eyes, I texted my second sister, but she didn't reply. So I called. Her voice was grumpy. Carrie, if this isn't important, I'll kill you. Sis, please bring my school uniform, ID, and backpack to the school gate. Pretty please. After a long pause and some grumbling, she hung up. I knew she'd do it. I smiled, feeling good. When I looked up, I caught Felix's complicated gaze in the mirror. Once she saw I caught him staring, Felix shifted his gaze. I thought you were the same dull person in front of anyone. So you can be like Lucy too. Guess big sis is less vain in public than I thought. Still, seeing her disheveled in a crumpled shirt and pants, so big I could fit in a leg's worth, shocked me. All the rich kids stepping out of their fancy cars stared at her. The second my car stopped, my sister came running over, tossing me a bag. I'm heading back. I'll be back in the afternoon. Handle your own issues. From her bag, I pulled out my uniform jacket. As I put it on, she spun around, catching the curious stares aimed at her. In our group of 4, everyone's eyes were on her except mine. She paused, dragging me to the side. "Sis, my clothes," I stammered, as she was dragging me away before I could finish changing. "The Whites reached out to me yesterday," I said, sticking my arms through the sleeves. "They're having issues. Heard they're hitting roadblocks with business. Think it's something to do with bad vibes or something," my sister shrugged. "You mean me?" I asked, pointing to myself. "Duh, who else?" she replied, leaving me stunned. "Apparently, your presence is messing with their juju. But it's not your fault. It's that imposter. You guys' fates clash, impacting the Whites' luck." "What now?" I asked, confused. My sister grinned. "The Whites need to split their daughters. One's fake, one's real. It's a no-brainer. You used to chit-chat about wanting mom and dad back, right?" She searched my face midway, raising an eyebrow at my knowingly confused look. "OMG, the Whites aren't that dumb, are they?" "Good guess," I thought. She walked off, shaking her head but gave my shoulder a reassuring pat. "If they're mean, come back. Carrie, big sis, and me will always have your back. Let them mess with you. We'll see what happens." I watched as she walked away. Felix bumped my shoulder. "If you're back home, leave those people alone." That left me baffled. What an idiot. With a head full of thoughts, I made my way to class, the morning's interactions with the Whites' parents replaying in my head. Everything was normal. Maybe they haven't settled on who to send away. Or maybe I should hope they pick me. But as they say, the higher the hopes, the deeper the disappointment. Better not risk it. After school, I got a message from third sis. "I'll come pick you up." I said fine, and I was just about to head out to the school gate to wait. I didn't expect Lucy to be waiting at the gate. She saw me, her eyes went wide and brightened. "Sis, the driver took the day off. We have to find our own way home. Together, maybe not." I barely finished my sentence before Lucy started dragging me outside. "Wait up, Lucy," I called. Tears welled up immediately. "Sister, don't you want to go home with me? I know you don't really like me, but in my heart you're my sister." Lucy is well known at school. Our little scuffle caught more and more eyes. Okay, I'm coming with you," I said and pulled Lucy along as we ran. Because of the school type, there weren't many students walking home the same way. We hadn't gone far when someone blocked our way. It was a group of kids with yellow hair. Lucy clutched my sleeve in fear. "Sis," she whimpered. I sighed. "Alright, so you're not so good at hiding it, huh?" I pulled Lucy behind me and called out, "Don't bully her. If you have an issue, deal with me." Lucy looked puzzled. The leader of the group smirked. "Sure, come with us then," he said, pointing towards a dark alley. I backed away cautiously. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Lucy shoved me and took off at full speed. I nearly face-planted, but managed to see her kicking up dust as she ran. The yellow-haired kids surrounded me at the alley entrance. "Go ahead, man. I'm recording," one said. "Record my foot." The leader smacked him on the head. He turned to me looking servile. "Sis, please don't tell Carrie. Otherwise. Someone spoke in a cold tone from behind the group. I saw a girl with short hair and a cap and gray hoodie. She waved excitedly. Sis. She nodded towards me. She approached the leader and kicked him in the knee. He dropped to his knee. Those aloof eyes looked down at him. "What are you doing?" The leader was nearly in tears. "Someone hired us to handle your sister. But I didn't know it was Carrie. Even if you gave me 100 guts, I wouldn't have dared to agree." Third sis was curt. "Who's Lucy?" "The one who was just walking with Carrie. We were just faking it. Lucy paid well." Third sis looked at me. I shrugged. She lowered her eyelids and spoke to the leader. "You know there's a price for what she did." "What price?" he asked. "You'll find out when I get back." I chuckled, wrapping my arm around third sis. "Lucky you showed up, sis, or they would have run me over." She wasn't much older, but she had maturity far beyond her years. She tapped my head. "If they bully you, come back and tattle. Your sister will have your back." As for Lucy, her eyes narrowed coldly. "I'll make sure she leaves Knox." "Oh, come on. Don't use authority for personal reasons, Madam President." I leaned against her like I had no bones, but she didn't mind. She wrapped an arm around my shoulder as we walked. I didn't care much for the Whites, but I was still polite. So I didn't go back to my tiny apartment that day. Third sis dropped me off at the community gate. Not long after stepping into the community, my watch buzzed with a call. Little shrinking brains Felix's exclusive ringtone. I sensed nothing good would come of it. Sure enough, when I picked up, it started, "Carrie, why do you have people bully Lucy? Do you know what they did? How could you be so malicious?" Pretending not to care, but wanting to force Lucy out. "Carrie, talk to me. Why aren't you saying anything? I know you're listening, so say something." I looked up at the sky, reluctant to speak. It was all laid out. What else was there to say? Explain it wasn't me, that Lucy framed me? Like that'd help. Lucy said I got those people. Where's the proof? Felix paused. What proof? If not you, then who? This didn't happen before you got back. So you're blaming me? Felix hesitated. Lucy's sobbing came through the phone. Felix was indignant. See, it's you. Lucy said they admitted it. Oh, then I'll hang up. Call the cops. Without waiting for them to protest, I dialed the police. I went back to the gate to wait for the officers, and went with them to the Whites' residence. It was my birth family's home, but had no room left for me. They treated the girl who swapped lives with me for years as their own. I knew they didn't like me, thought I was rustic, but I always saw them as family. Officer, I grew up in an orphanage. I've always wanted parents. But they wouldn't listen, said I bullied their daughter. I wept, clutching the sleeve of the officer, whose eyes also reddened with emotion. He reassured me, we'll get justice for you. I nodded, wiping away tears, savvier than they think. With the cops involved in a matter concerning minors threatened by lowlifes, this could get big. Fear paled Lucy's face even more. Dad, Mom, maybe let's drop it. I'm okay, she stammered. Felix protested. How could we let this slide? Those punks won't get away with it. The cop gently interjected, the law won't let them. Future boss's bravado quenched by legal reality. Mrs. White patted Lucy's hand, signaling to me. I quipped, Auntie, something in your eye? Want me to blow it out? No, she said, wanting to talk alone. Probably a warning or two. But I hate trouble, so nah, not worth it. Mr. White, the more sensible, glanced between me and Lucy, spotting truth and guilt. Knowing what's up, he ended it with a smack of the table. Thanks for coming, officer. There's no big issue here. We're not pressing charges. About what you just said. We think those bullies were actually directed by my biological daughter. That's not true. The young girl is just too sensitive. Figure it all out with a few words. It seems fair. But in truth, her heart is leaning all the way toward Lucy. I thought of what my second sister said to me, wondering to myself, has this family already decided which one they want to keep? The police officer hesitated, finally sighing. I walked him out. Before leaving, he held my hand. Communicate more with your parents. No matter what, you're their biological child. I was stubborn on the outside, but inside I thought there's likely no chance of that happening. Sure enough, when I went back, Mr. Whites gave me a gold card with $5 million on it. You should move out. He sure is a commanding CEO. Real domineering. I quickly accepted the card. Okay, thank you. His face was as sour as can be. Furious, get out. The Whites family doesn't have such a petty daughter. $5 million. Lucy and Felix wouldn't even bat an eye. It was just a trial for you. Are you wondering if in your heart, our father-daughter bond is only worth $5 million? I shook my head, nope. I thought it wasn't even worth that much. Mr. Whites furiously chased me out with a broom. I stood at the mansion's entrance laughing. Honestly, Uncle, I'm sorry to have bothered you these past few days. I never imagined you'd be my father. Never thought our father-daughter relationship would be so shallow. These past few days, we didn't even have heart-to-hearts like other dads and daughters. But I know you're a great dad. It's just that your only daughter is Lucy. Sorry I couldn't measure up to Lucy and make you proud. I'm out. Bye. Mr. White stared at me, not sure which part of my words reached his soft spot. His body trembled. As I turned to leave, his emotions grew more intense. I feared he might call me back over these words, so I quickly made my exit. Carrie, Mr. Whites couldn't help but call after me. I raised my arm over my forehead and ran, knowing it'd look from behind like I was wiping tears. When I reached the corner, I slowed down, called my big sis on my junior genius phone. Hey sis, can you pick me up on the way home? Guess what? I just earned $5 million. I know it's not as much as you make in a day, but I really tried. This month, apart from dealing with the whites, my life was pretty much the same as usual. But Lucy's was different. Heard she was hitting walls everywhere at Knox. Got a few punishments due to her conduct. There are photos of her on the school bulletin board, with 3 letters of apology beneath. First one, I used unauthorized appliances at school. Second one, I was wrong, truly wrong. Third one, I'm sorry for hanging out with bad influences outside school. There's nothing in the second one. I asked third sis. She said it was about school bullying, and that the girl who got bullied is now on a break from school. I dug around a bit, and found out Lucy was the ringleader of the bullying. I was curious how it was discovered. Caught the video in her room while tutoring. She was worried I'd spill the beans. That's why she agreed to write those apology letters. Third sis paused but insisted. What needs to be said must be said. Let's calm her for now. Once I have the name list and evidence, then I'll speak up. Third sis likes to stay quiet. But when she acts, it's astounding. If Lucy wants to play, I remarked, twirling the invitation in my hand. It's Lucy's birthday bash. What's funny is, Lucy personally handed out the invitations, calling it a way to help her sister mingle with the elite. But what's my status now? Going would just be a joke. My watch lit up. It's a message from second sis. Meeting on the 12th at the Whites for the feast with sis. But going with second sis is different. Second sis is more of a joke than I am. Lucy's birthday bash is a mingling scene for all kinds of celebrities. Second sis and I are just there to eat and drink around the big table. Mr. and Mrs. Whites scanned the room, beelined for second sis. Master, Mr. Whites glared at me disappointedly, then quickly adjusted his expression. Thanks to your advice last time, our family got through the crisis. Second sis nibbled on her cake, not quite smiling. No thanks needed, but you picked the wrong person to stay. Mrs. Whites asked, surprised, what do you mean by that? Second sis gave me a look, signaling me to watch her perform. She dabbed her mouth with a napkin, lightly spoken. Originally, keeping your biological daughter could have elevated your business, even climbed the connections you've dreamed of. But you kept someone who brings misfortune. Mrs. White scowled. Master, that's harsh. Harsh, you say? Just wait 10 minutes. You'll understand what I mean. Mr. Whites thought carefully for a few seconds. Is this what the master predicted? Second sis smiled mysteriously. Nope. I just know your current daughter offended someone she shouldn't have. Mr. Whites asked, who? Second sis pointed a finger, swirled it around the room, finally landing on me. I instantly became the focus. That moment, I quickly looked down, hoping there'd be a crack I could slip into. And you, my second sis. I'd call you my nemesis. Mr. White sized me up, uncertain of what severe consequences could arise from offending me. After all, my history is rather clean and ordinary. But on second thought, could it be too ordinary? He calmly said, Master, feel free to explain. Second sis maintained her enigmatic smile and said nothing. When I looked at her, it made my brows twitch. There's this nagging feeling something big will happen. Mr. White's face turned stern, suppressing his temper without blowing up. He turned to me. Come with me. I wasn't too willing. Maybe not. Lucy's about to make her grand entrance, descending the spiral staircase in all her glory. If you're absent, the little birthday star will be so upset. Mr. Whites glared. Stop talking, come on. I obediently followed Mr. Whites out. He stood on the balcony lighting a cigarette. Do you blame me and your mom? I shook my head. No emotion there. Can't speak of blame or hatred really. So it's blame. Why don't you get it, Carrie? Lucy has an engagement with Booth's. We can't let her go. For the whole of the Whites. If you want to stay home, you'll have to make nice with her. Of course, I can also get you a place. You can live outside. Daily management left to a housekeeper. Mr. Whites was talking more and more nonsense. I quickly stopped her. I said, I'm being honest here. If I had been deprived of love growing up, I might crave to fit in with you guys. But I never lacked love. I have 3 sisters who love me dearly. In my heart, I kind of agree with you. If the Whites could get along well with my sisters, then I could acknowledge my biological parents. But the issue now is, my sisters aren't really fond of you guys. Mr. Whites was shaking with a cigarette in his hand. After all, I'm his biological daughter with a blood tie. He hesitated, scrutinizing me closely. I looked back at him sincerely. After a while, he finally believed I was telling the truth. For the whites to accept me, I need to get along with Lucy. But for me to accept the whites' parents, they must be recognized by my 3 sisters. Unfortunately, these 2 things contradict each other. If I try to please Lucy for the whites' parents' sake, my sisters won't ever warm up to them. But I'm your biological father, Mr. White said, looking flustered. I stayed silent. The lights outside the balcony dimmed. I turned around, and a spotlight hit the spiral staircase. Lucy was descending slowly in a floor-length gown, a perfect smile on her face. Just then, the spotlight went out, and the huge curtain on the wall lit up. A pixelated girl was on her knees, and Lucy's voice echoed throughout the hall. Who told you to seduce Jason? Don't you know he's my fiancé? Lucy turned pale on the staircase. Mr. Whites glanced at me, extinguished his cigarette, and walked in briskly. Felix rushed to Lucy's side, helping her up. He yelled angrily, "Who did this?" Lucy, trembling, cried out, "It was Carrie, I swear." The video kept playing, the girls' pleading cries piercing everyone's ears. People looked around, shaking their heads. Couldn't turn it off, the staff shouted. Just pull the plug. All the lights came on, lighting up everyone's faces. The party was ruined. Felix immediately thought of me. Was it you, Carrie? Say something. He was enraged, grabbing my collar. Just then one person kicked his knee, and Felix knelt in front of me. My 3rd sister looked down at him coldly, using her toe to press on his ankle harshly. Felix winced in pain, sweating. My sister stared at him indifferently. I did it. Felix's eyes widened, and my sister scoffed, "Abusing women, huh?" I rubbed my nose, avoiding eye contact. Felix seemed to have feelings for my 3rd sister. Getting called scum by your crush? That's rough. My sister kicked him away, came up to me, and fixed my collar. Why didn't you dodge? What if he actually hit you? She sounded like she was reprimanding me, but I didn't feel scolded. I clung to her arm, smiling. I knew you'd step in, sis. My 3rd sister is the president of Knox's student council. Her team is full of rich kids or young prodigies. All around brilliant, she's deemed the perfect addition to any wealthy family. Yet here she was, kicking Felix away, protecting plain old me. Mr. Whites passed Lucy to Mrs. Whites and hurried over, eyeing his ideal daughter-in-law, then looked at me. Sunny is your sister? I nodded, yep. Why didn't you say so sooner? Mr. Whites was nearly having a heart attack. You didn't ask, I replied. Carrie, haven't the Whites treated you well these years? Why not say anything this important? My sister glared at him, poker-faced. So we could see how you treat your own daughter. I tugged my sister. Sis, don't give Mr. White's a heart attack, you'll owe money. She patted my hand, falling silent. But Mr. White's really was close to a breakdown. Felix stood aside, taking it all in. Holding his chest where he'd been kicked, he scanned us, glowered. Sunny, you're defending Carrie. She didn't respond, pulling me away. Hey! Amidst the chaos, my 2nd sister's voice blasted over the speakers, echoing through the venue. She chuckled, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Lucy the Bully's birthday bash. Just to let you know, she's not really the White's biological daughter. To keep the fake heiress, they kicked their real kid out. Such a family isn't blissful. Don't let your kids marry in. They'll be unhappy." People who knew my 2nd sister recognized her. "Master, I've been trying to book you for ages. Need your help with a charm." She was instantly engulfed by the crowd. Mr. White's, shaking, stopped me. "You said you had 3 sisters. The other? You mean my big sis?" I was cut off as my 3rd sister pulled me away. "I'm not done yet." Sunny's grip was iron. I had no chance to fight back. "Sis, go easy. Don't you know how strong you are?" Sunny loosened her hold, turned to Mr. White's. "I respect you as an elder, don't want to be harsh. But if you're taking Sunny back only for her connections, I have no respect for you." My sister was so polite, I almost cried from emotion. As we reached the door, Lucy clutched her dress, running over to stop us. I switched places with Carrie. "I'm your real sister. Why help her against me?" "Carrie, did you badmouth me to my sister? You took my life. Blame me for stealing your parents." I sighed, leaving the floor to my 3rd sister. She pulled me behind her, looking at Lucy coldly. "I'll count to 3. 1-2. I cringed, pitying Lucy. She's banking on the crowd watching, assuming my sister won't act in public. She stood firm, ready to clash with my sister to the end. When my sister got to 3, she stepped forward. 6 jumped up with a spinning kick. Lucy flew far away and crashed onto the champagne tower. Sis, she won't die, right? Third sister gave a cold glance. She'll live. As long as she's alive. I was dragged out. Looking back, I saw second sister hand Lucy a handkerchief. I've used this to wipe tables, don't mind it. Lucy freaked out for half a minute, then snapped back. Sister? I knew it, but don't call me sister. Second sister shuddered with disgust. We were never related by blood. Just grew up in an orphanage together. So we're not your sisters. We don't have a stupid sister like you. Our only sister is Sunny. After speaking, she stood up, tossed aside the handkerchief Lucy didn't want, and said, "Wonder if your fiancé would still want to marry you now." Lucy finally remembered Booths, to whom she was engaged. But now she was exposed for bullying, and called a jinx by someone esteemed in their circle. Even the Booths would think twice. But what did I do wrong? Lucy thought Carrie was to blame for all of this. I was sneezing as I left the venue. Third sister took off her coat and covered my shoulders. No arguments, she said. I adjusted the coat. Why isn't second sister out yet? And Lucy's engaged to the Booths. Could it be the Booths everyone avoids mentioning? Only one the Booths fit that bill. Sunny confirmed my suspicions. It's the Booths everyone talks about. Real love, they say. Second sister strutted out and winked at me. It's in big sister's hands now. Watching them metaphorically kick Lucy to the ground, I hoped big sister would go easy. A stretched Lincoln quietly stopped by the roadside. The window rolled down, revealing a powerful, sharp face. She wore a crisp shirt and black pants, exuding elegance. Big sister, I bursted toward the car. She nodded softly. Get in, let's talk. Sitting next to her, I snuggled up. Weren't you traveling for work? She rubbed her brow with a warm smile. I had to come back for your birthday. The Whites' parents allowed Lucy to invite me to the party, forgetting it was also my birthday. Fidgeting like a worm by her side, I asked, "Where's my birthday gift?" She produced a safe box, handing it to me. No need to peek. I knew it held a museum-grade piece. Sure enough, an exquisite pink diamond necklace shimmered in the light. A gift this magnitude needs presentation well before the party. Second sister reached into her pocket, pulling out something wrapped in red cloth. A high-grade jade bracelet, crossed by tiny red silk threads. Wear it. I've blessed it to protect you in danger. Eyeing third sister's usual unpredictable gifts, we waited. She pulled out a stack of photos, all muscly men. Pick one, she said. Big sister puzzled. Where do you learn these things? Third sister defended. The Booths might retaliate by using Lucy against Sunny. We're busy with our own lives. She needs protection. With admiration for her taste, I gingerly asked, "Can I have them all?" Big sister chuckled. What do you think? Stepping out, I discovered a grand dinner party arranged at a manor by Big Sister. Socialites pivoted from the Whites to attend. Whites himself, unsure, found himself drawn in. Jason arrived, unimpressed by Lucy's recent taint. Looked around realizing the party's gravity. Heard Lucy got bullied, he sneered. Wiping his brow, "It's complicated," Whites tried. Jason scoffed as her father. "Shouldn't you defend your daughter? Has Sunny's return made you aim to oust Lucy?" The conversation paused as music morphed the room's mood. Descending the staircase in a dress pre-ordered for the fashion label 6 months ago, the steps mirrored Lucy's party, minus bullying clips. "Thank you for joining my sister's birthday." Big sister's hand confidently reached out for mine. We 4 sisters forged a bond in an orphanage. Thanks to Sunny's grace, we climbed to today's heights. I've showered this family with everything. Yet a mere business trip ended with her bullied? Unacceptable. Eyes scanning the crowd, they rested on Jason. Your fiancé's actions need a reckoning. Jason's glass trembled. He asked quietly, "Whites, the girl called Sunny, is she your daughter?" Whites sighed deeply, "Yes." Jason spat with vexation. "Then what's left to scuffle over? Our contract was with a White's daughter, Lucy. If she's not biological, we have no binding agreement." Critically discerning, I knew Jason was shrewd. And so the night spun under calculated intrigue. Everyone there had sharp eyes. The eldest sister had a barely there smile at the corner of her mouth. Jason is a smart guy. He stayed up all night, even though he had an early morning class the next day. I was more pissed off than a vengeful ghost. The third sister yanked me out of bed. Before leaving, she dropped a line. The person you chose is waiting downstairs. I stared at the ceiling confused. Then I remembered I did pick someone from the photos the third sister showed me. A tall, muscular guy, about 6'3", looking like a mix of Daniel Wu and Leon Lai. His name was Mike. When I got downstairs, Mike was sitting on the couch. His back was straight, muscles hinted through his shirt. He had a vibe like a dapper gangster. I ran over to see him face to face. No joke, he really did look like Daniel Wu and Leon Lai. Mike stood up as soon as he saw me, face calm. "Miss Sunny," he greeted. "Hi, nice to meet you. I'll be at your service 24/7 to keep you safe. If you want to stay low-key, I can manage that. But rest assured, I'll be there immediately if danger comes." Mike's words were strong and loyal. I shook his callous hand, grateful. "Thanks, really." Mike lingered, staring at our clasped hands, then back to my face. "No need to thank me. It's my job. The bodyguard was hired just in case. Nobody wanted any trouble. But little did I know, he'd be needed right after school." A black Maybach was parked at the school gate. Jason was holding a bunch of red roses. As soon as I walked out, he rushed over and blocked my way. "Miss Sunny," he called out, "would you do me the honor of having dinner with me?" I looked at Jason, dressed like a peacock, not liking the vibe. He mentioned something about an alliance with the Whites last night. Didn't he give up on Lucy? Didn't the second sister say it was true love? I grabbed my backpack strap and shook my head. "Uncle Jason, my sister called me home for dinner." The smile dropped from Jason's face at the words Uncle Jason. He took a deep breath. "Carrie, the engagement was with the White's daughter. And now that's you. Even if your sisters back you up, breaking an engagement is not right." I was shocked. "But Uncle Jason," I replied, "I'm still underage. We can get engaged now, and marry when you're older." Jason sounded like a tricky stranger luring a child. I was blunt. "But by then you'll be old." Jason tried a different approach. "Your big sister is always traveling for work. Ever thought of helping her a bit? With an engagement, the Booths and the Whites would be family. Helping each other out would ease your sister's load." I responded with an "oh," and that was it. Then we both turned at a sudden, clear Jason from afar. Lucy ran out from the school gate, looking worse than yesterday. Standing a bit away, hesitant, she called out, "Sis, don't you hate me? You keep taking everything from me. I have nothing left. Can you leave Jason for me?" Her eyes were red, tears streaming. I looked at Jason, he looked back. One of us was puzzled, the other felt a moment of pity. I said, "You can have him. I'm not into older guys." With a wave, I turned to leave, but Jason grabbed my wrist. Before he could speak, Mike appeared out of nowhere, pinning Jason to the car. Mike had been watching everything. Only confirming I was not into Jason did he act. He landed a punch on Jason's cheekbone, making my teeth cringe. Lucy stood frozen, fingers trembling and pointing at Mike. You dared hit him," she stammered. Seeing another punch coming, I quickly stopped Mike. Enough, don't hit him more. What if something happens?" Only then did Mike halt, respectfully gesturing. "Miss Sunny, let me take you home. Turns out people do desperate things." On a calm afternoon, I was kidnapped. The thug wore a hood, but I recognized him by a limited edition Rolex on his wrist. It was Felix. He knew to switch to a nondescript van, but forgot to change out of his fancy gear. No surprise, his brain's a bit scrambled. I sighed, "Felix, where are you taking me?" He replied, "How did you recognize me?" I nodded at his watch. Felix pulled his sleeve down nervously, focusing on the road as if nothing happened. "Was it Lucy who put you up to this? Where are you taking me, to kill me?" I asked, knowing I had 3 powerful sisters. The eldest had money and connections. The second was strong, known for making bold predictions. The third had a web of contacts even more complex than the eldest. So Felix knew if he didn't kill me, they'd find me eventually. And the Whites would pay dearly. Felix slammed the steering wheel, shouting, "You recognize people not related by blood as sisters. Why can't we accept Lucy? She almost killed herself last night. Did you know? If you disappear, It will solve everything, he babbled, forgetting he was still driving. I was about to warn him when a huge truck veered into us. Boom. The crash noise got louder and louder. I felt the world spin. When I came to, I turned to see a steel beam piercing through the windshield. It went through the whole van, stopping just 2 centimeters from me. Felix wasn't so lucky. A bloody piece of pipe pinned him in the driver's seat. Felix was paralyzed. I was unharmed, except for the bracelet on my wrist that shattered. My second sister rushed over and saw me sitting blankly on a bench. She let out a big sigh of relief. Thank goodness, she said. You were wearing the bracelet. I shook my head, still in shock, and looked at the red light above the operating room. My second sister scoffed, serves him right. He kidnapped you to help Lucy. But look, after his accident, Lucy didn't even bother to visit him. That's when it hit me. Lucy was nowhere to be found. Where is she? I asked. My sister shrugged, who knows? The Whites' parents rushed to the hospital. Mrs. Whites nearly fainted from crying, and Mr. Whites looked like he aged 10 years. As soon as she saw me, Mrs. Whites lunged at me, grabbing my shoulders. How's your brother? How did this happen suddenly? Why didn't you stop him? You jinx. I frowned, thinking she was being ridiculous. My second sister understood and chopped the back of Mrs. White's neck, letting her collapse on the ground. No one bothered with her. My second sister sneered at Mr. Whites. Does your wife have a loose screw? Mr. Whites thought that was crossing the line. He knew Lucy was the real problem, and Felix was just her accomplice. If he weren't his father, Mr. Whites might have thought the accident served him right. Sonny, don't overthink this. It's not your fault Felix got into an accident. I shook my head. I'm not overthinking. I'm the victim here, not at fault. When Lucy found out about Felix's accident, she tried to escape. Jason helped her with travel documents. But at the airport, my sister's people intercepted her. They forced her to Felix's bedside. Mr. Whites told her, Lucy, my son is like this because of you. So, I hope you'll take care of him for the rest of his life. I suggested this because it was best for Felix. But I also wanted to see if they can still love each other after enduring daily suffering together. I stayed for a while, then left the room to the sound of Lucy's crying and Mrs. White's regret. Outside, Mike was waiting for me, looking apologetic. Sorry, my carelessness put you in danger. No need to apologize. I'm fine, I said with a smile. I walked towards my 3 sisters who were waiting outside. The end.